Brett, it's a privilege, great pleasure to have you here with us today. As Gianluca was telling us, you are one of the most recognized influencers on the future of business, on innovation, on digital disruption. So let's start with this first, let's say, quite open question. So how do you see digital disruption is changing the way businesses and consumers are doing and interacting together?
So we heard this morning a lot of talk about digital 4.0, industry 4.0. Let me just state from the outset, I'm not a big believer in this because every leading company in the world in 10 years' time will be a technology company or will be a declining business. So it's not, we shouldn't put a label on this anymore. It is survival. You either go digital or you go out of business. There's no option anymore. In 250 years, when we've looked at technology disruption occurring historically, when you look at something like the internet or smartphones or the big four disruptors I'm going to talk about in a minute, no industry incumbent has survived by keeping their business model the same. So there are four major disruptive forces we have to look for and make sure we have a strategy to deal with. The first and largest disruption that's coming over the next 10 to 20 years is artificial intelligence, AI and robotics. Let me show you one quick video. If we could have you show the video from Tesla, please. This shows you the Tesla factory. As you can see from the factory floor of Tesla's production line, it's all automation and robotics. But it's what Elon Musk says about this environment which you should all listen to. He says, the reason there are no humans on the factory floor at Tesla is the only way they can produce enough Teslas to meet their demand is to remove humans from the factory floor because humans slow down the production process to human speed. Okay? So I want you to think about this. When you think, whether you're thinking about the health sector, transportation, tourism, banking and finance, agriculture, any area that you're looking at today, if you have humans involved where automation can replace those humans, you will remain uncompetitive. You cannot compete. So the number one thing, if you're in a services business, for example, if you require a signature on a piece of paper to deliver a service today, your business is at risk. Okay? Because you can't deliver revenue at efficiency through digital technologies. Because the moment you say you need a signature, you stop the process. So the number one disruptor is artificial intelligence. Now we talk about three types of artificial intelligence generally today: machine-specific or task-specific machine intelligence. We talk about full artificial general intelligence, which is machines that can mimic humans. And then the third category, maybe in 40 years' time, is computers that are smarter than humans. But already we have computers or AIs that can outperform humans in many areas, not just playing Jeopardy or playing chess. But we now see self-driving cars who can drive safer than even the best Italian drivers, right? We see IBM Watson that can diagnose cancer at twice the accuracy of human doctors. We see robot surgeons that can outperform human surgeons. It's over and over again now we're seeing artificial intelligence perform at a higher level than humans. So you have to ask, where will the humans differentiate in the future? So this brings up the second element of the disruptive technologies, which is embedded technology design. This is immersing technology in the world and changing the way we interact with that technology. So let me ask the team to play the second video, and if we could have the audio for this one also, please. This is from Amazon.
Yeah.
You're okay. He's okay. He made it.
Jason, what do you mean?
We were very bad boys.
Alexa, what's in the news?
Here's the news.
Alec Baldwin and Jason Schwartzman were seen mooning paparazzi. Baldwin threw his shoe at photographers before making a run for it.
My poor cashmere socks. Alexa, reorder another pair of Brescianis.
Reordering Bresciani socks.
Okay, listen. Can you send some lawyers or something? Alec.
So I guess you've seen Alec Baldwin before. He did a great impression of Donald Trump this week on Saturday Night Live. But here he's using a new technology called Amazon Echo or Amazon Alexa, a voice commerce system. Did you notice when he made the transaction what he bought from Amazon? What did he buy? Did you see? Socks. Very good. Thank you. Someone was listening. But he did this by speaking to Alexa and ordering the socks. Alexa, reorder me some Bresciani socks. These are $200 cashmere socks. Very nice, right? But here's the interesting thing. It doesn't matter whether you're Trenitalia or whether you are an airline or the media business. In the future, you will have to integrate with agency-based commerce, where an agent, whether a voice AI or an AI in your phone, will do the transaction on your behalf. You won't stop, take a card out of your pocket and read the card numbers off and type them into a page. This will disappear because it will be agency-based. So that's the second disruption, is how technology embedded in the world changed the way we think about commerce and design. The third area of disruption is health tech and gene editing, where we will see major advances in medical technologies. Just two quick examples. One, gene editing, where they can take the DNA out of your cells, edit the DNA using this technology called CRISPR, and insert the DNA back in your body, will eliminate diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, genetic cancers, cystic fibrosis, hemochromatosis. These are all just bugs in our software that we will edit in the future. And the second area is use of sensors. So we'll be wearing in 2 years a smart watch on our wrist that will be able to predict if you're going to have a heart attack. So imagine what changes that will mean if your watch can predict you're going to have a heart attack. And not just this, if you're a diabetes sufferer, you will swallow a computer that will measure your glucose levels. So then the fourth area of disruption is when we combine all of this into smart economies, smart cities, smart infrastructure. And this is where, frankly, Italy has a big problem. Because when you see the statistics that we saw today, the rate of adoption of these new technologies in industry in Italy is just too slow to remain competitive. In countries like the United States and in Australia, where there is climate change denial, this is also a massive problem for these economies. Because already we're starting to see solar contracts, for example, for energy in markets like the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, where solar contracts are being written at 2.3 cents per kilowatt hour. In the United States, the US today pays 6 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. So solar is already 1/3 of the price of coal-based electricity in the United States. So the US's insistence on coal generation is going to mean the economy cannot be competitive in 20 years' time. In Italy, the slow rate of adoption of commerce on e-commerce and internet broadband access is also one of those criteria for competitiveness in the future. So they're the big four disruptions you have to be ready for. AI and robotics, embedded technology design in the world around us, health tech, gene editing, and smart infrastructure.
Great. So let's see if you have applied these four disruptions in the initiative that you developed, you founded yourself over the last years. So you are not just an author, you are not just an influencer, but you are a digital disruptor yourself. So can you tell us a little bit about Moven, about what you like to define as a downloadable banking account, and how it's going, and
Sure.
why it's so disruptive?
So I got the idea for Moven actually on my book tour for my first book, Bank 2.0. as I was talking about the way a bank account would work in 20 years' time, one of the guys at the book launch in Los Angeles, he said, "But banks won't be able to do this. Who's going to do this?" And I said, I'll do it. Yeah. So I started Moven in August of 2010. I registered the domain. Originally, we were called Moven Bank, or Move and Bank. You know, this was the name. But we just dropped bank after because banking's not cool these days, so it's just Moven, right? You know, as a startup, we're worth north of 100 million US today. We are deployed in 3 countries, with another 6 countries coming online next year. In the US, we're direct to consumer. We have about 250,000 customers active in the US, but we also license our technology to banks outside of the US, so TD Bank. So we're both a fintech disruptor and a fintech partner with banks. So we work with TD in Canada, we work with Westpac in New Zealand, and other banks around the world. For TD, where we launched in Canada, we expected to get about 300,000 users over the first 12 months of our deployment, which started in May, and we're already at 700,000 users there, so it's much faster than we anticipated. In fact, the CEO of TD said it's the most successful product launch in TD's history in North America. And our app was #1 on the App Store in Canada for a couple of weeks, beating out Facebook and Snapchat. And this is the first time ever for a banking app in North America that's been #1. So we're really happy with the progress. But really more importantly...
What is the ingredient of the success?
So more importantly is that it changes people's behavior around their money. You can, in the US, you download this app, it takes you 90 seconds to sign up for a bank account, that's it. And we send you a plastic card, and that's essentially the process of opening an account. It's very, very low friction. But as you transact, whether you tap your phone to pay or whether you swipe the card, every time you transact, you get information on your phone about whether that was financially healthy or not. So you'll see the merchant, how much you've spent within dining out this month, whether you're spending more dining out this month than last month. It's always giving you this analysis of how you're using your money. And what we've found that does over month on month for a user of Moven is that they reduce their spending by about 10 to 15% compared with if they don't use Moven. So as far as we know, this is the first app that actually produces people's or changes people's spending behavior dramatically with that 10 to 15% improvement. And we see this in Canada, we see this in the US and in New Zealand where it's already deployed.
I see. And so talking a little bit broadly more than just on banking and financial services, and given the fact that we are talking here about global competition, no? How do you see digital disruption is impacting, let's say, across industry, the global competition, this new kind of competition? And how do you see, we have been talking about industry convergence before. Do you believe in industry convergence? And how do you see it? What's your point of view?
So let me give you a quick example of where experience design is becoming more important than products or channels, the old way we used to think about this. When mobile first came along, many companies said, we have to have a mobile app, we have to add this channel. But they just saw it as an additional channel for access to transactions or commerce or products. But now if you look at examples like Uber, what Uber did is they took the process of a journey that you take, getting from point A to point B, and they redesigned this. They thought about the problem of how you order a taxi, the environment in the taxi, the quality of the driver, how you pay at the end of your journey. And they looked at redesigning all of those points of the experience all along the way. Now, as part of this, something very interesting happened in terms of this convergence angle. In the US, about 30% of Uber's drivers have never had a bank account. Now, this is a pretty significant stat. But they used to work in yellow taxis and get paid only in cash. So when they went to work for Uber, that doesn't work. Uber can't pay them in cash. They have to have a plastic card. So what Uber had to do was they set up a partnership with some banks in the United States, and they allowed drivers, when they signed up for Uber, to also sign up for a bank account. Now, this produced a very interesting side effect, which was Uber became the largest acquirer of small business bank accounts in the United States. Now, we don't think of Uber as a bank. We think of them as a taxi company. But by redesigning the journey, they had to acquire bank accounts, they had to become a payments company. All of this became integrated into this experience. So when you think about your businesses, whether you're in transportation or whether you're in healthcare, what's going to happen is the utility of your business is going to become integrated into the life of your consumers in very different ways that we're used to today. It'll be seamless and frictionless. So they won't go to your app to get access to your services. Your services will come to them or surface based on context, based on behavior, based on location. And this will be the trigger for access to your platform in the future. Now, if you can't plug in to those environments, if you can't plug in to augmented reality glasses or a smartwatch or a voice commerce system like Amazon Echo or Google's new Pixel service, then you just won't get the business, you won't get the revenue, because this is the future of the way people will conduct engagement and commerce. So this is where we're going to start to see new companies come on top that glue together these different service layers or building blocks to create these very compelling experiences. And that might be a tourism experience, for example, that incorporates transport, healthcare, hotel arrangements, tours, but it will be surfaced in an experiential way, not in a product or channel way.
Okay, time is running, Brett, so we need to speed
I know,
up.
sorry. I got a lot to say.
About regulators. So we have been experiences already in Italy of regulators that are, let's say, quite conservative in, let's say, let fintechs and innovation players playing their role in the market. So do you think that regulators will take a harder line in the future, let's say, against this innovation,
Sure.
against fintech, or they will try to facilitate and glue up, let's say, the innovation together with the incumbents?
I think we already see a very clear pattern here. 2 to 3 years ago, many of the incumbents, whether you're in telecoms or payments or whatever, were hoping that regulation would tighten for startups and create a level playing field again. What we're finding exactly the opposite is occurring right now. Regulators around the world are creating technology sandboxes, allowing fintechs and startups to create these innovations that break the existing laws or regulation, but in a controlled fashion. And they allow this because regulators realize that they can no longer be an innovative economy, be a competitive banking system, for example, unless they allow innovation to take place. So regulators are going to get less restrictive in respect to innovation rather than more restrictive. That's the trend we're seeing.
That's a great news.
Yeah.
That's a great news. What about let's say, the shift from product to embedded experiences? So, and this is across industry. So all of us here representing several industries are trying to push towards embedded experiences rather than pushing products or services. So
let me give you a quick example on that. You saw the example of Amazon Echo, and he ordered the socks. But if you think about a credit card product or a debit card product, the design of that product has very little influence now over whether that's used as a payment vehicle for voice commerce. You know, if you have airline miles or reward programs, it has zero impact. So now you have to start designing the experiences where your service layer fits into the person's life from a design perspective. This requires very different skill sets. We need data scientists, experienced designers, behavioral psychologists. This becomes the front line of our ability to reach and connect with customers rather than product specialists who understand credit, for example. That becomes less important.
So
and artificial intelligence.
We're coming back to
obviously.
the talent management that we were mentioning this morning. I think we're almost over. I would like to close up with one final question that I'm sure that all of us here in this room are interested to hear you about. Is given the fact that we all here represent, let's say, several industries, and there are many key people that are having key roles here in their respective industries, what should we do next? So out of this room, out of this conference tomorrow, what can you suggest us to do concretely in order to take digital disruption and do it together and having this industry convergence?
Okay, so first thing you
coming
do
real.
when you get back to the office tomorrow, if you're CEO, is promote your head of mobile and head of data to the board of the company. Right? Secondly, look at every product and service you have in the business and think about it from this perspective. There is a startup or innovation company out there right now trying to remove all of the friction in delivering that product or service to market. If you have any friction in that service, like a signature on a piece of paper, or you need to go to a specific place, then understand that you will have a declining revenue cycle over the next 5 to 7 years because of the friction you have in that process. So the first thing you should do when you get back is look at every product and service you have and figure out how you're going to get rid of the friction rather than a competitor who's designing the friction out of the experience for your customers.
But thank you so much for
Grazie.
coming here.